Hi, this is John Velie, immigration attorney, and this is another episode of Immigration Solutions during the coronavirus. If you are watching me on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. Oh, Deborah Koch is watching. I love Deborah Koch, one of my favorite people in the world. The South African, married to an Irishman with 2 American kids, and also the star of the World Cup final. I saw her right from my home at 4:30 in the morning when I was watching it with Blickies, the former South African national team coach, one of the greatest rugby fans in the planet. Great to see you, Deborah. So we're talking about the coronavirus during the, we're talking about immigration during the coronavirus pandemic. Anyway, we're going to talk about a number of things with the coronavirus. We're going to talk about a number of things with immigration, 3 things on immigration, and then we're going to talk about 2 really great books. And I got these books because a friend of mine is going through depression. And we really want to make sure that, he's doing okay during this time. So I got 2 books. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. And we're going to talk about Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. We'll try to get this all in just a few short times. So statistically, 4.1 million cases of the coronavirus are out there right now. We've bested 4 million folks in the world that have coronavirus. 287,000 have lost their lives to this horrible virus. 84,000 new cases today. In the United States, we're now up to 1.3 million cases and 76,000 deaths and 28,000 new. Now, these are somewhat lower numbers than you're going to see from other things. It's the World Health Organization. There's a lot of people out there just bashing all sorts of folks on this. World Health Organization is more conservative in its numbers than Johns Hopkins that tracks it, and I believe CDC and those sort of things. Anyway, that's what it is. So stay safe. A lot of states are opening up, including mine. And that's what we're doing and things like that. I think I'm sideways. Should I turn it? Nope, I'm going to stay. I'm going to go sideways the whole time. A sideways show. So turn on if you like us that we're sideways, and we'll go from that. So on immigration, a couple of things. Is this a good time to do immigration? Yes. There are 3 reasons that you want to file a visa now. One is that there are 10 days. Today's May 13th, although we'll broadcast this later on YouTube, so we're doing it on Facebook Live. On May 23rd, 3 departments are going to get with the president and determine whether or not non-immigrant visas are impacting U.S. workers negatively. And non-immigrant visas include the H-1B, the L-1, the P, the O, the alphabet soup of work-related visas. So it's really a good time to get your H-1Bs in now. The H-1Bs, if it's a cap season-based case, people won their lotteries on really March 31st, and you have to file within 90 days. I think I saw Alan Petty out there. Good to see Alan. And so that 90th day is June 31st. But if the president is going to, Stephen Paul's watching. Good to see you, Stephen. If you need to file your visa by June 31st under the H-1B cap, that's the 90 days after that. However, the president is going to be meeting with 3 agencies, and we know that meeting might not go well for non-immigrant visas. One is there's 26 million and climbing unemployed Americans right now, and so it's easy to put the blame on foreign nationals, even if companies really need them, want them, and they're not taking a job from anybody, because that's really what you're going to have to state in some of these cases anyway. But it is what it is. It's an easy political scapegoat. They always have been. So it's a good time to file that H-1B now, or any of your non-immigrant visas within this 10-day window before that meeting happens. So green cards have become current for a number of different categories. EB-1s had not been current, meaning that you had to wait about a year and 3 months for most of the world, much longer for others. And you can file those right now. You can do your adjustment of statuses from a non-immigrant U.S. Sorry, that was somebody calling in. But you can do that now. So a lot of people are under misinformation that immigration is just shut down. It's not. It's just in-person interviews are, consulates are, and entering the United States is a little bit difficult. I see Bert Hammond has said Man's Search for Meaning is one of his favorite books. We'll talk about that in a second, Bert. Thanks for weighing in. Yeah, you can file most immigration cases in the United States right now, and it's a really good time to do that for EB-1s. If your case had not been current, it can be now. So contact us. Kathy Sessler, the world's fastest mother, as a mountain bike racer. She was also in a great movie. What was it? He-Man and the Masters of the Universe as a bike rider, and she's with Santa Cruz Bicycles and brings in lots of world-class athletes to race for Santa Cruz, some of the best athletes there are. And Kathy's just a fantastic person from Temecula, California. It's really good to see her on there. Hi, Kathy. And besides the EB-1 green cards, also an excellent time to do EB-5s. We're going to really need the EB-5 investor, and there's some proponents or opponents to the EB-5 that have been saying we want to have less of these visa holders. Let me explain the EB-5 and why we need it. The United States is very, very dependent on lenders from around the world, meaning banks and governments that lend us money. We owe the Chinese a lot of money. We owe a lot of the Arab states a lot of money. And if they pulled it on us, it would topple our economy. Now, it would probably also topple theirs. But what's a really good idea is the EB-5. That's where if a foreign investor invests either $900,000 or $1.8 million into a U.S. company and creates 10 full-time jobs for Americans, then they get a green card. That's a great idea. Number one, there are all sorts of politicians that fight this great idea, but the investors need the money, the America needs the money, and we need the American jobs, right? But right now, it is one of the excluded areas from the presidential proclamation that stops some of the out-of-the-country green cards from being processed. So if you want to invest in an American company right now, you can do so, even if you're out of the United States. And time frames are going down in order to do that because a lot of people aren't doing it. So it's a great time to invest in U.S. companies. It's a great time to invest in property in the United States. And having property that creates jobs for Americans, really good thing. So the EB-5, those are the three things about immigration to there. Now let's talk about these books. So The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. Great book. And I got this book as I was walking through Encinitas, California, which is an interesting town north of San Diego. It has this incredible surf break called Swami's. I surfed there. I looked at it for days before I went out there. And when I went surfing, there was a probably twice my size sea lion that was playing in the surf, which is a bit scary because I just went over the top of him. And what's really scary is that, you know, what eats sea lions are animals that are larger than sea lions, like great white sharks. And just in a California, the town of Santa Cruz, a couple of days ago, a surfer, last name Kelly, who makes surfboards in Santa Cruz, was bit and killed by a great white shark, which is a rarity, really. But it happens from time to time. You know, you're less likely to get bitten by a shark or eaten by a shark than you are almost any other basis for death. But they do happen, and it is one of the most gruesome things and scariest concepts there ever is or was. I think I spent a month on my parents' floor after watching Jaws as a kid. I don't know about you guys, but sharks scared me so bad. We were afraid of swimming pools. We were afraid of ponds, all those sort of things. So in Encinitas, where I surfed with the sea lion, I picked up this book, The Art of Happiness. Now, the title went to me because I read Sun Tzu's Art of War, which is a tactical book on how to get in, using space and technique to beat your enemies. So I think that the Dalai Lama's book, The Art of Happiness, may have been based on that, but what an incredible book. And what we do every single day is we start out at our law firm, why are you happy, right? Why are you happy? And the reason we start that is because we have to solve problems. And because we have to solve problems in getting people visas with a disinterested government entity that doesn't want to give them very much, it's stressful. right? It's stressful for our clients, it's stressful for our workers. So we already start every day at our firm, why are you happy? And that comes from the concept of the Dalai Lama, because this is an interview between the Dalai Lama and a professor from Arizona. And one of the questions in this book is, how long have you been trying to be happy? What an incredible question, right? How long have you been trying to be happy? Most people would say, I've always tried to be happy, right? But he said, since I was 4. And the Buddhists, right? And look, I'm not a member of any organized religion. I'm Jewish that's what I am. Right? That's what I identify with. That's how I think. But I don't go to any organized religious deal. But I appreciate the concepts of Buddhism. I really do. And in this concept is because they're trying to be happy, and the Dalai Lama teaches happiness as a goal, right? I mean, that's what his journey is to be happy. And what it is that's really interesting is happiness is the dispelling of unhappy thoughts, right? So that's what we do every day. Why are you happy? I want to ask you guys, why are you happy? Are you happy about your family? Are you happy that it's a Wednesday? I know there are a lot of camels that are happy because it's Wednesday. We've seen those ads. But why are you happy is how we start our day at our law firm, and it is the dispelling of unhappy thoughts. So think of it kind of like, you know how cold is just the absence of heat, right? You're never cold, you just don't have enough heat. Well, you're not unhappy, you just don't have enough happiness, right? Doesn't that make sense? So taking positive thoughts to say I'm happy about these things can dispel an unhappy thought. And I have my friend who's going through some bouts of depression, and I'm going to give him this book to read it. I don't think it's a cure-all for depression. Don't get me wrong. Depression can be a medical problem that might require some medicinal benefits. I'm not saying whether it does or doesn't, but if you are depressed or you're feeling down, if you can just think about how to be happy or what you're happy about, it might get there. This book, I suggest it. The other book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Now, I went through a divorce. It was a bad divorce. Made me unhappy. But a friend of mine suggested this book. Now, Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist in Poland and was taken into a Nazi death camp. He wrote this after the fact, right? But this book is fantastic for helping you get out of a bad mood, because no matter what you've been through, I think, I can't say this for every one of you, you might have gone through this, you probably haven't gone through what Viktor Frankl went through when he was in a Nazi death camp, or a number of them, right? So this guy faced almost dying 6 different times. He talks about each of those things. But imagine what your day-to-day existence is in a Nazi death camp, right? He said, like, the Nazis would come out, and man, I hate Nazis, by the way. Maybe that's the Jewishness in me, because I actually fear them in my head. And I always said to myself, how would if I was alive during World War II, I would have stood up to the Nazis. I thought this as a little kid, right? And, you kind of see going through our country today that, a government can do things whether you like it or not, even if it's a really free government. The Jews that just went to the Nazi death camps, we kind of think I never would have done there, but they kind of tricked them, right? They said, here's where you need to go. They didn't say, hey, you're going to a death camp. They didn't say that. They said, report, you're Jewish, we're taking away your companies, we're taking away your house, but come here and we'll bring your suitcases with you. And then they leave the suitcases, put them on a train, and out they went. Well, Viktor Frankl was in Auschwitz and I think at least another one of these death camps, and he would say, like, this guy, this very weak guy that anybody could beat up, would come out and he'd look at all the intern people in death camp, and he'd put up his little pinky and he'd kind of look over there and he'd point at somebody, and then another one of the guards would shoot him, right? This little weak guy would come here and point his little finger at somebody, and then that person would leave his life. And Victor, on a number of instances, the person that got shot was right next to him, right? So that guy could have been pointing at him, because he would never really do it directly, like it's that guy, right? He'd just sort of point, and then they would shoot somebody. So that happened. Another time, the war had ended, and this was a really scary time for these guys. And what happened is the Nazi guards they asked a lot of them to go into a church, and then they boarded up the church and they burned the church down, right? So the war had ended, and a bunch of them got killed in this church. And the reason he didn't die is that they were putting him in ambulances and other vehicles, right? And he thought they were getting there, and he and 6 other guys at his camp, there weren't enough people, and he kind of said, well, you go ahead, to somebody else who was weaker than him, and in that person that he said you go ahead to, instead of him, got in the ambulance, was driven to a church, boarded up, and then incinerated to death. Some really wild ones. He said, but they weren't really nice in the death camps, right? He said the nicest people weren't the ones that survived. You had to make your way to survive, and he had this really interesting story where he's eating his soup, which was mostly broth, that they were lucky if they had a bug in it as protein, right? And he's eating his soup, and there was this guy staring through the window at him while he's hunkered over it, eating the soup and hoping the guy will go away. And the minute the guy died, they could see that he died. They ran out, grabbed the body, brought him into the broom, and his head's hitting the stairs on the way down to the floor. And they lay the body out, and they just strip him of all the clothes, and they like, those boots are better than mine, kind of thing, right? So it was really interesting how that went on. And then they just threw the body back out, right? And he said the meanest people in the Nazi death camps were the Jews that were in charge of bringing the other Jews to be killed, and they were given booze and treated well, and then they were the guards, and then guess what happened to them? Then they would be killed, right? So, divide and conquer is one of the oldest tricks in the book. That's what European settlers did to Native Americans. That's what European settlers did to Africans. Divide and conquer, old mean trick, and it turns people against each other. But man's search for meaning, if you're going through something rough, read this, because whatever you did, you never did. And one of the things was, what did he do to get through these times, right? Well, he thought about his wife. He was separated from his wife. They used humor, right? They used humor, and it was when they would march in the mornings to wherever they were going, they would be loaded up with things to carry things, and the Nazi guards would track them through these deals, through these fields, right? And they would have something on their shoulders, and if they stumbled or grunted or coughed or made any noise whatsoever, then they would be hit with the butt of a gun and sometimes killed, right? So you know what these guys used to do to each other? They would tell jokes under their breath, like, right? They'd say, what did the bartender say, right? That kind of stuff. Can you imagine these Jewish, concentration camp guys telling other guys jokes under their breath just to make them laugh so that they would get beat up by the Nazi guards? That's how they dealt with it. They were just trying to survive. Anyway, so these 2 books, and there's a really great quote. One of the great quotes, you don't probably know where it came from. It comes from Nietzsche, which in German, because Nietzsche wrote in German, was "Was mich nicht umbringt, macht mich starker." That which does not kill me makes me stronger. Right? Maybe you've heard that before. It comes from Nietzsche. It was in this book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. One of the 2 books on the OnlineVisas, immigration solutions during the coronavirus reading list while you're hunkering at home are Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl and The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama, in a conversation he has with Howard C. Cutler. So that's my show for today. Thanks for checking in. Kathy Sessler says she's got that book, and her husband surfs at Swami's too. That's really cool, Kathy. One of the great breaks. I mean, you can get a cool smoothie across the street from Swami's and sit there and watch surfers. And again, me and my kids watched it for 4 days, and on the 4th day, we went, grabbed a surfboard, went on, and jumped on it. It had been 30 years since I'd surfed. I had only gotten up once before, and I got up on Swami's and surfed. It was fantastic, one of the great moments of my life, and right after I bought that book, The Art of Happiness. So hope you guys have a great day today, hunkering down during the coronavirus. Love you all. Private message me if you need any information on this immigration stuff I said. It's a great time. It's a great time to be filing a certain number of visas right now. H-1Bs, get them done in the next 10 days if you can. It'll probably be something after that, but stay cool. See you later. Bye-bye.